Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Business Podcast, your source for all things business. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at @AdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, today I have James Rosebush on the line. He's founder and CEO over at Growth Strategy, Inc. and CEO over at Impact Speaker Coach. And he's also author of the best-selling book, Winning Your Audience, Deliver a Message with the Confidence of a President. James, welcome to the show.
Hey, Adam, it's phenomenal to be with you. Just great.
Oh, man, James, so I'm excited to get into this book. For all the audience that's been listening to this show for a long time, nothing I like to do more than, number one, help fellow authors sell books, but also bring great books to content to my audience. I mean, I love it. I love reading the books myself, and this one's a special one, so I'm not going to spoil it yet, James, so we're going to get into the book. But before we do that, I wanted you to give a little bit of context for your background. Maybe tell us a little bit more about what you're doing over at Growth Strategy, Inc. and Impact Speaker Coach, just to get us kicked off.
Sure, happy to do that, Adam. So I am the unstoppable engineer of growth for your company or your organization. So I get hired as the interim chief strategy officer, chief growth officer, interim CEO. So far, I've worked with over 450 companies globally, from early stage companies to Fortune 50 companies. And what I produce is known as profits, increase in profits, earning, revenue, equity value, or funding of companies. So this has been a tremendous ride for me working with companies, over 450 companies all over the world. And I also, second bucket, is I advise family offices and wealthy families on how to navigate the complexities of wealth, which can be investment strategy, it can be philanthropic programs, starting foundations, it can be governance, it can be working with your kids to get them on the right road to the right kind of education or place them in the right places, and also asset management. Some families have me sell their real estate or buy real estate for them and that sort of thing. And then lastly, what I do is coach corporate executives at every level on how to speak. And this is probably the most fulfilling thing I do, because I get to work with people who really want to deliver a message and they want to get rid of fear. And we'll talk about this, but those are the three buckets, Adam, that I am very blessed to have worked in. And having had this experience working in the Reagan White House at that level, it's just given me a broad audience around the world to work with extraordinary people. And I'm very grateful for the businesses I've been able to start and to run, and the people I've been able to meet, like you.
Man, you are a busy guy. I don't know how you had time to finish this book. Don't sit still often, huh? And I think that's a great transition. I do want to jump into this book. So, Winning Your Audience, Deliver a Message with the Confidence of a President. I mean, what was the inspiration for this work?
Hey, that was easy. You know, I grew up with a dad who was a General Motors executive. He gave me three things. He was a General Motors executive, he was a musician, and he taught public speaking using Dale Carnegie methods. So,
wow,
course,
that's awesome.
I had to be a student, and in Michigan, same place where you were brought up, Adam. So he was all three of those things, and he gave me all three: a passion for growing companies and a passion for music, which I am not as good a musician as he was, but I'm a would-be, right? He could sit down at a piano and he could play anything. You just say, Adam, you say, what do you want to hear? And he could sit down and play. I can't do that, but I do love music, and I love being a musician. But lastly, of course, growing up with a dad who taught people how to speak, and then ending up working for the great communicator Ronald Reagan in the White House, who gave me a million lessons on how to communicate, how could I not become a speaker coach and a writer of books about how to communicate? This book has been called the New Bible of Public Speaking, I think the successor to the Dale Carnegie books, which were obviously a tremendous and heroic effort. So that is basically how I got into it. I went at age 20. I was a Rotary International Scholar, and I went to the Soviet Union, and I was tailed by spies, and I had a dossier created on me. Little did I know that 10 years after that, I'd be negotiating with the Russians on behalf of the White House. But at that time, I go there, I meet with incredible people in the Soviet Union. And when I come back as a part of my fellowship with Rotary, guess what I had to do? I had to give speeches. Now, I had been giving speeches, college and high school, like we all do. And, crazy, you're insecure, you want people to like you, all that sort of thing. So here's what I learned. I learned that when I came back from this dramatic experience that I'd had in the Soviet Union at that time, that I had, what did I have, Adam? I had one thing to share, and that was stories. People love to hear stories. They want to hear stories. So I could talk to them about what I encountered, what I saw, what I felt, who I talked to, the spy stories, all this kind of thing. The way when I flew back after, I guess it was a month or two, in the Soviet Union on this rickety 747 with, at that time, Russian farmers with their caged chickens and produce and everything right in the plane, if you can believe it. You can't even imagine there'd be anything like that today. But it was a little bit scary. It was very noisy. And these experiences that I had really resonated with people because they wanted to learn more. And how do you do that? You do this by telling stories. And Reagan was a great storyteller himself. So that's really when I kicked off my career in public speaking. And I developed a life of storytelling. And a lot of people will say to me, yeah, but Jim, you had an interesting and colorful life. You can talk about it. I said, you know what? I'm going to teach you to be a storyteller, and you could have had the most boring, bland life of anyone on the face of the earth, but you can still be a storyteller. You know why? You can tell other people's stories. You can say, I've got a neighbor who's been working in his garage with his kids to develop an alternative to the gasoline engine. And this is what he's putting into it. And this is how he works at it. And this, blah, 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 blah. You can find a story reading obituaries. You can find stories on today's blog or newspaper. Just open it up and you can retell a story that you find there. This is called journalistic speaking. Because if you look at a newspaper article today, and I can give you some examples, sitting in front of me, the Wall Street Journal. So every story on the front page that is they're reporting about some news, but they're telling a story. So, for example, front page of the Wall Street Journal today, they're talking about the urban exodus, people moving out of cities. Well, like 5 minutes ago, it was just the opposite. People were moving into cities, right? So now, how do they start that story? They don't say, today 8,000 people moved from New York, blah, blah, blah. No, they start by saying, Adam Torres picked up his bags today and walked out of his apartment on 54th Street and blah, 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 blah. So it's storytelling. And so to go back to answer your question, how I started in this, it was because I had to learn how to tell stories.
So I love it. And one of the things that I want the listeners to know is that this book, when James says that this is like the Bible of speaking, or like the follow-up to Dale Carnegie, that's not hyperbole. Like this book is pretty intense. I'm going to go through some of the table of contents just to give you a flavor of what's in here, because again, we pack a lot into this short episode, but I want people to understand like this is the real deal. So first off, we go through words power the world, words and images, the fuel of persuasion, discovering your authentic self, defeating fear, building a bridge to your audience, crossing the bridge to your audience, own the room with storytelling, the perfect trifecta, audience, content, and delivery. And then this one right here, like I see very few books on speaking that have this, the architecture of a great speech. Like that chapter and that section alone right there is worth its weight in gold in terms of the book overall, because very few people go into what it takes to make that great speech. Then next one, the physical delivery of your message. I mean, it goes on and on and on. The whole point, I want the audience to understand, like, this book is the real deal when it comes to really how to speak and what that entails. So first off, James, congratulations on kind of bringing this this whole thing together because this was not easy. Like, as I look through what you've kind of accomplished with this book, it's different. It really is something that we all hope to maybe create a book that outlasts us and, you know, our time here. And when I look at this, I'm like, man, I could see like people really in 20 years still reading this, 30 years down the line still reading this. So that being said, what's your hope that when somebody picks up this book, like this is the one thing or the message or what you want them to get out of it? And I know there's a lot you want them to get out of it, but what's the spirit of what you want them to take away from this book?
Hey, Adam, thank you for those nice comments you said about the book. I'm going to tell you this, that 75% of all people, sir, they suffer from glossophobia, which is fear of public speaking. And this is not just like, I'm afraid of standing up in front and speaking to a million people. These are people that are afraid to pick up the phone and make a sales call. Well, you read my book. You're going to destroy fear. And when you destroy your fear, it changes your life. If you look on the back of this book or on my website, in fact, Speaker Coach, you'll find people say to me, you changed my life. Well, I don't take credit for that. I don't take personal credit for that. But when I give you these tips, it helps you release the fear and take hold of a new concept of yourself. And that kind of confidence gives you the ability to win your audience with a convincing message. And, you know, I asked Margaret Thatcher one time, I said, you know, are you afraid of politics? Oh, yes, Jim, I'm terrified. I get up on that. I said, come on, you know, you're the Iron Lady, blah, blah, blah. She said, and I said,
I would not expect you to say yes. I agree with that. I would say, come on.
I know, right? So she said to me, she says, Jim, I said, well, how do you handle it? She said, first of all, I get up on the podium and I talk to myself. And I say, okay, old gal, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. And then I shift my mind to my message, and the message takes over. So it's a two-engine deal. Deny the fear, affirm the message. And the message needs to take over. People ask me, I get stuff because I'm a columnist on different magazines and blogs, and they always ask me this question, you know, how do I memorize these things? How do I do these things? But, you know, in addition to getting rid of fear and giving you the architecture of great speech, this is a handbook. This is no fancy thing. I want you to tear out pages. I want you to mark it up. I want you to take this with you. I want you to, if you follow the templates, this has got lists of things. Do this, don't do this. I would tell you one thing. I will guarantee you, this is 100% guaranteed, money back. If this book does not change your life, I give you your money back. This is a book that will going to transform you and transport you, even if you're not giving a speech 10 times a week. You are speaking, because speaking, you might be telling your kids, eat your dinner, go to bed, do this or that. That's speaking. That's public speaking. Guess what? That's public speaking. And there are ways to do it and ways not to do it. But I always, which is a fun part of it too. I always and want to address also the minutia, such as I was doing a podcast or something yesterday with a woman who's interviewing me, and this is on air, and it was going to be taped. But I said, "What are those things around your neck?" And I said, "Is that your eyeglass, kid? What is that?" And she said, "Oh no, those are earrings," and they were dangling back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And I said, "Take off those earrings. A woman should never appear on camera or in front of an audience with dangling earrings. Why? Because it's a distraction. So, that's just a little thing, but what we talk about is what you should wear, when you should get a haircut, how you should stand, what the backdrop be, the lighting. We talk about all of these things, but you know why? Because most speakers, they don't take control of their presentation. They think, everything's going to be done for me. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to go to the podium. I'm going to make this presentation, and everything will be great. Do you know how many times the lighting, when I stand up to give a speech, the lights aren't right, the lighting hasn't been done, there hasn't been the right kind of podium, the microphone isn't right. They're all kind of people. I've had people introduce me, they forget to say my name. You have to take control of the production as much as you have to be the star attraction. And this is something that I really bring out in this book as well. So they're grand things. And one last thing, very important to know about this book. It gives you stories and examples of great speakers. So I feature, for example, Dr. Martin Luther King. I feature Frederick Douglass, the freedman. I talk about people and I give examples of great speeches and great speakers so that we can mold our lives to theirs and follow the examples of what to do and what not to do. And of course, Churchill is everyone's favorite great speaker, but he, of course, is the one who really saved Western civilization. And it was all through his words and his conviction. And I quote, of course, from the final hour speech there, where he says, "We will fight on the streets. We will fight on the beaches. We'll fight on the landing zones. We'll fight on the farms. And we will never, ever give up." And, of course, that's probably one of the greatest, certainly in the top 5 of all great speeches. And also Reagan's speech that's in the top 5 is the speech he gave after the Challenger went down, and how he talked about the very movingly and emotionally how the astronauts had slipped the surly bonds of Earth to touch the face of God. That earned him a place in that speech in the top 5 of all great speeches in history.
Absolutely. And I love that you bring those stories back out. And for some of our, let's just say, younger audience that are listening to this, if you have not read or listened to these speeches, you definitely want to. And because this is the great stuff. Obviously, you pick up this book, Winning Your Audience, and this is going to be your introduction. But like some of the things that you're mentioning here, you're taking essentially all of your years of expertise in doing this. Even that tip you gave about lighting and about this and that, like all those little things, that's the difference between amateur and professional. I can remember the first time somebody didn't introduce me by name or said the wrong thing or the lighting was off and I was frazzled, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I have to like make sure all this stuff's done in advance, or have one of my team make sure everything's done in advance, because it's not guaranteed, and all that matters there is the impression you're going to leave on the audience. Nobody in the audience is going to think, oh, the event promoter definitely messed this one up. No, they're looking at you. That's the impression that you're giving. So you have to be in control of that experience and make sure it's right. And so just by reading this book, I wish I had read your book and understood that before it happened to me, because it's not like a nice experience when it happened to me. You could have saved me a lot of pain and trouble. So James, I'm glad that the book's out now, so other people don't have to go through maybe some of the things that I personally can say I've went through in this, and I think they definitely should pick this book up. So, James, that being said, if somebody's listening to this and they want to connect with you and your team, so whether it's on the book, so Winning Your Audience, or if they want to inquire more for a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives listening, if they want to learn more about Growth Strategy Inc. or Impact Speaker Coach, what's the best way for them to connect with you and your brand?
Hey, Adam, thank you so much. So you've got to get this book. It's flying off the shelves. It will help you. It's worth every penny of it. Go to where books are sold. Go to your local bookstore. Go to Barnes & Noble, barnesandnoble.com. Go to Amazon. Get it there. You can read all the dozens and dozens of reviews there. Get it there as soon as you can. Contact me. Talk to me. Send me your questions. Get me to coach you. You can find that at www.impactspeakercoach.com. ImpactSpeakerCoach.com. All the details are right there. And then my corporate and organizational growth strategy work you can just find at www.growthstrategy.com. Love to talk to you. Love to engage with you and be of the greatest help that I can to you.
That's awesome. Well, James, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about your work. And again, congrats on the new best-selling book. So, Winning Your Audience, deliver a message with the confidence of a president was really easy for me to find. I just put in Winning Your Audience in Amazon. It pops right up. So easy. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store. And if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Business, definitely give us a subscribe there, but also leave us some comments in the video. I'd love to know what kind of projects and things that you're working on. And James, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thanks so much, Adam. Appreciate it.